Hey everybody, I am Renee Kylas, and with me I have Danny the show. Hi Danny.
Hi there, Ren. How are you doing today?
I'm really good. Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, let's kick off.
All right. So, um, First off, I would like to start this by talking about tracers, but basically some company removed it because of somebody complained about it, and
It was too sexualized.
yeah, they complained about being too sexualized, and Chris Ray Gun has a video about it. Amazing video. I love Chris Ray Gun's video. I thought it was awesome. But there's just this like one part that I disagree with, and well, super sexually, and I would play that part and tell everybody why. Okay, let's see.
All right.
Sorry,
So
this is
you're attempting
this is
attempting to get the video playing is always something that trips people up.
no, this when I'm trying to share it. It's jumping around right now. For some reason, I don't know why, but it's jumping around. I hope I click on the right thing. Okay. Can you see this? Tracer too sexy for Overwatch.
No. Oh yeah, here we go. I can see it now.
Oh, you can see now Chris Raycon?
Yeah.
Right.
Fucking tame. Like the fact that people are complaining about this, not only that people are complaining about this, the fact that people are complaining about this and it's actually resulting.
You see, it was one person. It wasn't a bunch of people. It was only one person who complained, when they took it down. It wasn't a huge bunch of people. And even this article says so, like it was just really one person. And that's it. So they were being just a bunch of pussies about it. It was like
Was it just one person though? I mean,
yeah, it was only one
not...
person. It was only one person. It's kind of like here. Now, some people have been quick to point out that this was just one forum poster. You see, it was just one forum poster. And even people were saying that in his comment section somewhere. Let's see.
Yeah, but so essentially, if it was just one person, then that is pretty ridiculous that the company would, that there would be any result from it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I just disagree with, because it wasn't all that factual. He said groups of people when it was only one person. It was kind of like over here. Now this one was actually groups of people, but I'll still show it anyway.
Thing, because apparently the Joker was raping Batgirl. That cover was a variant cover, an optional cover. It wasn't the main cover that everybody was going to see. It was an option. But people complained until there was no one to complain to, and that cover got taken out, of course.
Now, what I have to say is here, people will always complain. I mean, it's terrible that they removed their cover, but in the real world, people are going to complain. The thing is, what's the difference this time? It's kind of like this. Months back or a few years back, it was kind of a lot like Christian versus atheism. And that atheist, like the amazing atheist, he got a lot of hate comments. Jacqueline Glenn got a lot of hate comments. I mean, even before it came out that she plagiarizes all of her content, she got hate just for being an atheist. Mr. Repsian got complaints, but none of them took their videos down. It's not like the amazing ideas received hate. Then he goes, well, I'm going to take all my videos down because people are complaining about it. I mean, if somebody complains and you take your shit down, and I mean, the worst part is, I mean, the people complaining, I highly doubt even bought the book, you know? I
Yeah.
highly doubt that they even bought the book, you know, because it was a Twitter hashtag. If you take, you know, your content down for people who don't even buy your book, that's all on you. I mean, you know, it's like not even the audience, you know, it's kind of stupid. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, it's up to the companies not to be pusillanimous about it, you know. They shouldn't be such pussies about it. They should just keep it up, you know, just be like, you know, we have it, you know, if you are gonna play, then whatever, you don't even watch our, you don't even buy our stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think that if a company is going to remove something, it should be because their audience doesn't like it. It should be essentially like free market. Though I'm getting sick of saying the phrase social justice warriors, what they tend to be very good at is convincing organizations, companies, etc., that if that company doesn't kowtow to whatever social justice cause they're trying to push today, then there's going to be a massive reduction in sales for that company. It's amazing that they manage to convince companies of this, but they do tend to. And there was what was it, that fitness one, that fitness company. I'll remember the name as soon as I finish talking about it, I swear. Protein World. They completely ignored what the social justice warriors were telling them and said no. They had, I mean, I think the situation was their ads were body shaming or something because they were advocating fitness, and they laughed at the social justice warriors, and their sales went up, not down. The amazing thing is not the amount of social power that social justice warriors tend to hold. The amazing thing is that they convince these companies that they do have that social power, which I suppose in a way gives them social power, but only via lying, not via actually having the support of a large number of people. And in this situation, the companies should just have done the same thing, both with the butt, who was it? Chase's butt, and also with the cover. I don't know. Did they actually change the cover, Rin?
I think so. I'm not sure.
So if they did, then with the cover as well, then what these companies should have done is just laughed at them because, like you said, it's not their audience. They shouldn't be scared by these people saying, "Oh, well, you know, we're all going to boycott you if you put these messages out." Well, okay, but you weren't going to buy our shit anyway. These companies have got to stop thinking that the social justice warriors actually represent any sizable segment of their market.
I totally and completely agree with you. I mean, because it's kind of like a change the cover. Why are you changing the cover for people who don't even buy your shit? You know, it's kind of like it would be different if a large portion of your audience, like people who actually buy all your content, have complaints, you know, but still, yeah, it's like if it's a large portion of your audience that have complaints, you know.
Well, then it's just the free market.
Yeah, but it's kind of like when they changed the cover, they did it for people who don't even buy their content, and it's stupid, or like kind of like Tracer's butts. You know, it was only one person complaining, and then they changed everything because of one person. That's really stupid, and it's on them because, I mean, if I was like, Danny, your YouTube channel sucks. You're horrible at YouTube. I hate you. You should turn your channel down. You know, you should post whatever I want. You can't post what you want. You must post what I want. What would you say to that?
No, I wouldn't listen to that, but I wouldn't listen to it for a different reason. I don't have any illusions that I'm going to get particularly popular, so well, I'm already not famous. What are you going to do?
Yeah, yeah. To me, it's kind of like, well, like I said earlier, the Amazing Atheist had to deal with this. Repsian, Jacqueline Glenn, back. This is before Jacqueline Glenn got caught plagiarizing. There were many Christians complaining about their atheist content, and they were basically all like, "Go fuck yourselves. We don't care. We're gonna do this anyway." And
Yeah.
it paid off. It
Yeah.
totally paid off. Oh, okay. I have a video on cultural appropriation. I'm going to go back to screen
Screen
share.
sharing. Yeah. It's always the thing that everyone has the most difficulty with. I think that YouTube basically doesn't want you to be able to stream YouTube videos over your stream.
Can you see that?
Yep, here we go.
All right.
You're saying that I can't have a hairstyle because of your culture? Why? You know it was in Egyptian culture? Egyptian? No, why are you not? Are you Egyptian? No, but doesn't matter. Wait, where's Egypt? You know what, girl? Egypt, still. You don't have to tell me what I can have. Huh? Yo, girl, stop touching me. Yo, girl. You already know. Get off me. That's no reason, yo. I don't need your disrespect. I don't need your disrespect. Why are you filming this? For everyone's safety.
Okay, this is what I taken from it. My what I take from it is, well, what I got from it was a bit different than what Vernaculus got. For me, from watching it and looking at her facial expression and whatnot, it seems like she has a thing for him. That's what I got. I think she was flirting with him.
Holy shit, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, my sister actually, for those of you who don't know, am I breaking up?
No.
Oh, for those of you who don't know, my sister, she passed away last year. My sister passed away like July the 31st of last year, for those of you who don't know. But back when she was alive, and this was years back when her boyfriend was still alive, because unfortunately my sister and her boyfriend died about like 3 years apart. So this was back when both of them were alive. My sister, she used to flirt like that all the time with her boyfriend and all of that. But when I was in Montgomery Job Corps Center, the girls at the Job Corps, they flirt like that, So what I got from watching this video, I got that she was flirting with him. Like, have any of you guys been paying attention to the kind of looks she was giving that guy? I mean, if you were paying attention to the kind of looks that she was giving him, to me, I was getting that she has a thing for him and she can't keep her hands off him. I'm thinking that she likes him,
That is a weird way of showing you like someone, but that being said, it wouldn't be the weirdest one I've ever heard of. I didn't pick up on that at all. I'm not going to say that you're wrong, though, because that's possible. I have seen people flirt in rather unconventional ways. Basically, it's what amounts to an attack. So it's not beyond the realm of reason. I, on the other hand, did get pretty much what Vernaculus was saying. It's about this one. I think that one part, though, that is worth mentioning is, okay, well, obviously, I think everyone thought, well, what if the situations were reversed? What if it was a white guy talking smack to a black girl, and then and saying how something she's doing is so terrible and, totally unsolicited, and blocking her from getting out, grabbing her when she tries to leave. If you'd flip the situations round, I think that people would have lost their shit, and different people would have lost their shit than the ones who have about this one.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, when I was in Job Corps, I've seen quite a few girls that actually flirt like that. Like, for real, I would be in a gym seeing girls flirt like that. I'd be here and there, and there'd be girls acting that way. And I mean, that's how the girls like flirt, like, I know that other people didn't pick up on it because I didn't hear them talking about it. But looking at the smiles and the looks that she was giving him, like the big smile she has on her face and the looks that she was giving him, she likes him. She has a thing for him. I mean, she wasn't that.
The smile, as far as I could tell, like, to me, it seemed like she was having a bit of a power trip. Like she was, happy about the fact that that she has that control and that kind of impunity from criticism there. But you could be right. I'm not saying that that's wrong. So you've seen girls flirt, like, have you seen black chicks flirt with white dudes by talking about cultural appropriation before?
Well, not like that, but like not flirt with white is talking about cultural appropriation, but I have seen blacker girls flirts with black men like that in Job Corps. And my sister flirted with her. I mean, both of them are dead now, but my sister flirted with her black boyfriend like that in a similar way.
Huh. All right. Well, I will leave it to your expert opinion then, Rin. I don't. I definitely didn't see it, but I'm not saying that I necessarily would have. But yeah, the only part that I can really comment on is the part that I saw, and the part that I saw was someone who was essentially what she was saying, as far as I could tell, was it's cultural appropriation because he's like sort of the privileged class. He's the privileged white man, so he can't do things that were invented or even contributed to by people who were black. And she's doing that because she can do that with impunity, whereas I don't think that she would accept him saying the opposite thing, like anything that a white person has come up with black people can't use. She wouldn't accept it the other way around because he's one of the privileged class. He's the one who's in power. Well, when you look at what would happen if they reverse those roles, who actually has the power there? Like, she can talk all this shit to him. She can, criticize how he's dressing and bully him about it. She can even grab him, stop him from leaving, and probably nothing's going to happen to her. I mean, she'll probably be fine. Like, that's probably not, some very minor disciplinary action from the school if he's very lucky. It's not going to be much. Who is real in that social situation? That is a social situation where a black chick has more power than a white man. So when she's talking about that, like in somewhere in the video, when she was saying that, I think she said you're the privilege, like you're in a position of privilege, and so when you do, she didn't say it in so many words, when you do something like that that's come up with by black people, it's cultural appropriation. Obviously, she said it in a much less eloquent way than I am. But when she says that, really, is he the one in power in that situation? I don't see it.
Yeah, it's my hair cultural appropriation because I mean this isn't the hair I was born with. This is
did you straighten it?
Yeah, chemically. My hair's chemically straightened.
Cultural appropriation. You're just trying to make it look like white people hair. That's terrible. You should feel ashamed of yourself, Ren.
Yeah, I feel quite. Well, you may be white, but your hair isn't straight either.
No, it's not. Actually, my hair is probably the only part of me that you can tell that I'm slightly Maori. I don't know. I wonder if actually anyone knows what Maori is. Native New Zealander. But yeah, so my hair is not exactly very white people hair, but other than that.
Yeah, and I have some
Oh, you've got
articles.
more.
What were you saying?
You've got more content. Well, you can get it out today.
Yeah, I have like more content. Which one do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about lesson in hate for a high schooler who criticized Black Lives Matter, or do you want to talk about from the egalitarian feminism where they're trying to change UK law to help men? You see, rape doesn't apply to men. Like men cannot get raped, only women could get raped, and they're actually trying to change the law in a man's favor. They're actually being egalitarian. They're actually helping men.
Yeah, I do think that they should drop the label feminist, but I do like people who describe themselves as egalitarian feminists. I really like, because the fact that they feel the need to tack on egalitarian to their feminism is, I mean, it shows that they've got some affection for the term feminism, which I don't think they need. It could just be egalitarian, drop a word. But the fact that they feel the need to tack on egalitarian means that they are actually in favor of equality, and they are really trying to fight for it, but they just have that affection for that word for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I was really happy to see that people are feminists and they're actually trying to help men even at a woman's expense. It makes me feel really happy about it. So it's like, yeah, like not all feminists are evil.
No, well, not all, no, I don't think anyone thinks all feminists are evil. I would just say that they're not really feminists. I know that sounds like, I'm defining their word for them, and I guess I am. It's really my definition that I'm using for feminism, but I mean, of course it is. But I mean, the fact that they have to tack on egalitarian to the word feminism, that means that they do know that there's something wrong with feminism, at least at the moment, because otherwise they wouldn't feel the need to add that qualifier there. If they thought that feminism was really a movement for equality, they would just call it feminism, because egalitarian, I mean, that's what it means to start with. You wouldn't need that extra word to show that it's about equality if you thought feminism already meant equality. But yeah, other than their name, I am totally cool with egalitarian feminists.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, Merriam-Webster added a second definition to feminism, which is the advocacy of women's rights. Or, it's just, the second definition focuses strictly on one gender. So that could be it. Should I read it?
Yeah, let's go.
It becomes immediately apparent this in indubit don't know how to pronounce that word. Indubitably fails the non-swap test, as it makes it impossible for a woman to rape a man. And that part makes me feel really happy. It makes it impossible for a woman to rape a man because they're acknowledging a problem and they're trying to fix it. So it makes me happy to read this. It excludes a woman enveloping enveloping by concentration on penetration with emphasis on the penis. Penetration with other objects is covered in a related law. In layman's terms, rape is forced to have sex against their will. However, if a woman forces a man to have sex with her, under UK law, this is not considered rape, but a form of sexual assault, which is not only carries lesser sentence, but has very different social implications. The very legal definition excludes female perpetrators. What is very curious is the rape law breaks the Equality Act 2010 3, which include indirect discrimination.
Yeah, this is definitely a worthy cause. I've actually seen some feminists talking about it. In fact, there is at least one feminist who followed me on Twitter after I had a couple of tweets back and forth about this law. It's something that, interestingly enough, you'll see MRAs and at least egalitarian feminists coming together in order to fight for, which is cool, because if feminism really were the movement for equality, which I've expressed my doubts about that, but if it really were, then it would be totally happy with allying itself with MRAs in cases like this.
Yeah, she's turning Karen Strong's argument, because I remember Karen Strong was saying in one video that if feminists were really, cared about equality, show me an instance where feminists help men at the expense of women. And here it is, trying to help men out. It's kind of like, I really like this article. I'm liking what I'm reading. It's like, if a woman forces a man to have sex with her, under UK law, it's not considered rape, but sexual assaults, which has a lesser sentence and different implications. So it's really people living up to the dictionary definition of feminism. They really are trying to fight for equality.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that they're doing the right thing, even if they're doing it under the wrong label.
I don't care which label people have for themselves. I care much more about how they behave.
Sure, I mean, that's much more important, but I think language is still important and worth discussing.
It discriminates against men because...
So what's the section about rape culture, though?
Huh?
What is the section about rape culture that I see there, though?
Behaviors commonly associated with rape culture include victim blaming, sexual objectification, trivializing rape, denial of widespread rape, refusing to acknowledge the harm caused by some forms of sexual violence, or a combination of these. When looking at the current attitudes of male victims of female rape, a clear rape culture emerges. There are many myths surrounding male rape victims, including concepts that men wanted it. That I actually heard that from I don't know if he was joking or not, but I actually heard that's from Fluffy Talks, because Fluffy was all like, oh yeah, he must have wanted it. So I actually have heard that one before. I mean, like not the same, but I actually seen guys, saying, oh, he must have wanted it. Anyway,
Yeah.
that they should have fought back and trivializing it as lack of legal recognition. Worst of all, the rape culture denies women are capable of rape, which I think most feminists cause, though, but that's me. Denying women's rights to action.
Yeah.
Do you disagree with it so far?
Yeah, I don't, even with the way the UK laws are set up, I don't think I would call it rape culture. It's the misunderstanding, or at least mislabeling something as not rape when it is. That is something very bad, but it's not rape culture. If they acknowledge that it was rape, then they would be against it. There's no aspect of our culture that is in favor of rape. There's just aspects of our culture that maybe misinformed or misunderstand or are in denial about what rape is. It's not advocating rape, it's just misunderstanding it. So I don't think rape culture, even in this scenario, makes sense.
Well, she gave she gave the Wikipedia definition of rape culture, and trivializing the rape of men, or denying the rape of men, like denying that men could be raped, false upon the Wikipedia's definition of what rape culture is.
Sure, and that would be like from feminist theory, which the Wikipedia definition will use the definition that is from feminist courses in universities. I think it is true that it does fall within the definition according to those feminists' own ideas about what rape culture is. That being said, I still wouldn't be comfortable calling it a rape culture that is misleading to the point of being suspicious, in that it's easy to suspect that they're being intentionally misleading when they say rape culture, when they just mean that we're not doing enough to prevent rape. Like, yeah, it's suspicious that they would call it rape culture, but again, I suppose that's more of a language distinction. So the actual actions of this group are fine. Their language is very suspicious.
I don't know, because if a person defines it and gives you a definition of what they mean, I don't think it's suspicious when you actually explain what it means. It's not like the refusal. It's not like the refusal to explain. It's not like, or it's not like vernacular's video where you're hiding behind big words and refuse.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
On layman's terms.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's suspicious because I think that they are hiding behind big words or anything. I think it's suspicious because it is the thing that they're describing as rape culture. It is not very likely to me, does not seem likely to me that they would consider that really, it doesn't seem very plausible to call that rape culture. I understand that that's what they're defining it as, but why are they using such a strange term for this concept? You wouldn't say we live in a murder culture, even though you might say that we need more police enforcement to prevent murders. Calling it a rape culture is suspicious in the sense that I am suspicious why they would use such a alarmist term for this.
These people are egalitarian feminists, and I think that they're just trying to use a word that feminists already use in feminist circles and using it to help men. And if it's used to help men, then it's kind of, taking a definition that feminists are abusing already, and it's already well known, and using it to help men. I have no problem with it.
I don't have a problem with it if that's why they're doing it. That seems like a perfectly good reason. That being said, I still would prefer if they would call out the feminists' definition of rape culture. I call that out as a very alarmist way of defining something. But yeah, again, I am suspicious of their language, but I have no problem with any of their actions. That's going to always what I'm going to come back to with egalitarian feminists, because I basically agree with them on everything but language.
Yeah, I just think that the regressive left feminists have already have that word. They already popularized that word. Feminists already know what it means, and I think that they're just using it and trying to use it for good, and using it to help men, because that word is not going to go away. I mean,
I think it is.
That
word is
not going to go away. I don't think that word is going to go away anytime soon.
Well, it's the only reason it's not going to go away is if we just sort of give up on that battle and we just say, well, okay, we will refer to our culture as a rape culture. If we just give up on that, saying, well, your definition seems a bit weird to me, but I'll go along with it. When it's something as alarmist as this, I don't think that we should be ceding ground. I don't think that we should be giving up that fight. I think that there should sort of, I advocate for a zero tolerance approach to bullshit. If someone has a regressive ideology like modern feminism, whenever you give up an inch to them, that's it's not going to help the discussion move forward. That's just going to mean that there's one bit of bullshit that you've just let slip through the cracks, and a whole lot more can develop from that. Like when you accept the term rape culture, then they can start talking about these or any anti-rape measure, which like believe the victim, guilty until proven innocent stuff. That starts to have a little bit more validity when you say, but we live in a rape culture. Sure, I know it's an extreme measure, but we live in a rape culture. Isn't that worth it to stop rape culture? And that's a bullshit argument, because the term rape culture was bullshit to start with. If we give up that battle, then there's a whole lot more, other than a number of battles, that we're going to have a much tougher time fighting later on.
I don't know. I think that, well, obviously, meanings and definitions could always change over time. Kind of like fag used to mean cigarettes, booty used to mean treasure. Words, phrases, and definitions are always changing its meaning.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes words fall out of fashion entirely. Like sometimes we just, forthwith. Where was the last time you heard someone say forthwith? Never, because it's just fallen out of fashion. I want rape culture to be like forthwith, something that people don't use because it's archaic and pointless.
Yeah, but how did it become archaic and pointless to begin with?
Well, there's a number of reasons that words can become archaic and pointless. One can just be because we started using a different word. That's one way this could happen. We could start saying, well, okay, instead of talking about rape culture, why don't we call it something else? That isn't, when we talk about, the having lax standards on enforcement of rape, how about we don't call that rape culture, because it is not a culture of rape. It is just having lax standards. So maybe come up with another word for it, or better yet, whenever we talk about it, just discuss the concepts. There are things we don't have words for, and we can discuss perfectly fine. We talk about the concepts with more specific language, where we talk about each aspect of the concept. It's like we talk about enforcement of murder laws, and we say, well, are we enforcing this correctly? Do we need to change sort of standards of evidence, etc., etc.? We can have those conversations, and we don't need to have some concept like murder culture in order to do it.
Yeah, but doesn't that lean towards censorship and language policing?
No, it's a disagreement on language that works. If a feminist, I would never try to stop someone from saying rape culture, but I will try to convince them that it is a stupid word to use. I'm not going to try and use any social pressure or try and prevent in any way someone from using the word rape culture, other than talk to them and try to convince them that that is a really stupid term that carries a lot of baggage with it for things that are not true.
Yeah.
It's a deepity.
Yeah, I just think that if a word is going to disappear, it's going to disappear in its own time. And while many people are using it anyway, and given that neither one of us are famous, may as well use it to help men. It's kind of like if you can't beat them, then it's kind of like if it's already there, may as well use it to help men. Like, well, we're going to use it to help men. There we go. We're just going to help men with this and bring attention to men's issues and help out as many men as possible.
Yeah. Well, I agree with their actions. I disagree with their language, and I think their language is important. That being said, on this battle, I'm totally on their side in terms of getting that definition changed. And I'm not averse to siding with people that I don't agree with on everything. That would be crazy if I had only sided with people who I agree with on everything. So yeah, go for it, egalitarian feminists. You've got a shitty name, but you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, it perpetuates the concepts that women are acted upon and cannot act, that women are only objects when it comes to sexual deviancy. The very legal definition of rape turns women into victims and men into perpetrators. So, yeah, I'm glad that they're being
Okay.
egalitarian about it.
I want to make another point on the language which refers to that. So the very definition, legal definition, turns women into victims and men into perpetrators. Their name is feminist. The feminists. Feminism. And when you ask them, why are you okay with calling your movement for equality, naming it after something that is associated with only one gender, then they'll start talking about how women are the more oppressed, and it's essentially that they're, even if they're right about that, the word that they're using is still doing exactly what that definition of rape that they're complaining about, minus the actual legal implications, in that it's designating women as inherently the victims and men as inherently the perpetrators on a group level. And this is something that they're trying to thankfully advocate against on an individual level, but why are they okay with it on a group level? I don't know, maybe I'm talking negatively about them a little bit too much because that's easier, but because overall I agree with them.
I mean, I think you're conflating egalitarian feminism with Lacey Green, Francesca Ramsey, because I mean, at least they are actually trying to help men, and they haven't explained their definition of feminism. Like they haven't explained on an individual level why they call themselves a feminist, and they
No,
never.
no, that's true.
I never heard them say, "Well, because women are oppressed." You know, can you tell me where did they say that women are oppressed and that's what they call themselves?
There may be some other reasons that they call themselves feminists. The other one is that the movement is associated, so the historical context of the movement, like what the movement has done positively throughout history. I think that that is also a bad argument, but for different reasons. If so, I don't think I'm conflating them with Lacey Green. I think that I am advocating that they stop siding with Lacey Green implicitly by using that label, because I know that they are for all the right things. They are actually for an egalitarian society, which is a positive thing. But they're not doing themselves any favors if that's what they're trying to do. They're not doing themselves any favors by labeling themselves under the same banner as a Lacey Green and Anita Sarkeesian.
Well, they're actually calling themselves egalitarian feminism. They have egalitarian in front of feminism. They're not saying I'm a feminist. They're saying I'm
Oh no,
feminist.
I understand that. But they're still calling themselves feminists. And when you label yourself something like that, I have to wonder why you are so obsessed with keeping that label feminism. Clearly, they're okay with the label egalitarian. Why add the term feminism to that? Like, it's just making it longer. Call yourself an egalitarian.
Yeah, but they're just missing the words together. Egalitarian feminist. It's like it's supposed to be treated like, you know, it's kind of like, hey, I'm an egalitarian feminist. I mean, it's kind of like Jade Shade Tall. She describes herself as an MRA and a feminist. I mean, it's kind of like, is there anything wrong with her calling herself an MRA feminist? Or
yeah. Yes, there is. Not the MRA part, the feminist part. I would call myself an MRA and a WRA. I'm an advocate for both men and women's rights, but I wouldn't call myself a masculinist, and I wouldn't call myself a feminist.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of like, what's wrong with? I mean, because if they're trying to actually help men, if they really are trying to be about equality and helping people of both, whatever. I care a lot more about actions than words. I'm not going to judge people by their words. I'm going to judge people by their actions.
I'm not judging them by their words. I'm merely pointing out that there is something wrong with how they are using words, and it seems to imply things that I would, from their actions, I would not think that they'd support. So I agree with you. Actions are far more important than words. That doesn't mean that words aren't important, though, and I still think they're worth talking about.
Well, for me, I'm much more like a live and let live. If you like a label and you want to call yourself that label, and you're a decent person, then you could call yourself whatever you like, as long as you're a decent human.
Yeah,
I'm not going to tell.
Sure, you can, but then on the same side, but on the same in the same way, I can call myself whatever label I want, and I can criticize you calling yourself whatever label you want. I mean, and you can criticize my labels. If someone explained to me why they think that I should not call myself an MRA, and there are some reasonable arguments, though not ones I'd accept, then I would stop calling myself that. And I would not think that that is irrelevant, even if it's not as important as the actions themselves. I still think it's relevant what words you use and why.
For me, actions are just more important than words. To me, words are just...
Yeah, I agree with
you. Words are just not as important as actions. You know, like...
Yeah, but they're still important.
I
I
mean...
mean, the words people use is... It's not so much as what words they use as why they use them. But when you see someone calling themselves a feminist, then it starts to be a little bit concerning why they would call themselves. Imagine I was in favor of equal racial rights, but I called myself a white supremacist. And it's like, well, I mean, I think white people are supreme and black people are supreme. So I call myself a white supremacist and a black supremacist. I would still say, okay, but you're mainly referring to yourself as a white supremacist, and that there is a lot wrong with that. There are some very negative people associated with that label. There is some serious implications about using that language. Maybe you define white supremacist as just meaning that you're for the equality of the races. Maybe that's how you define white supremacist. And I would say, okay, well, I agree with you in the facts of it in that case, but I still think that you calling yourself that label is very questionable, and I would be very suspicious that they were trying to push through some kind of baggage along with that label.
There's a huge difference. The difference is from the very beginning, from the very inception of feminism, from the very beginning, like when it comes to the very first wave of feminism, they really were fighting for equality, and they've been fighting for equality for, the first generation of feminism. And I mean, it's in the second wave that they started to get a lot more crazier. But it's kind of like the difference between white supremacists is that from the very beginning and still to now, they are about white people being the supreme race. That's the difference.
If you could go back in time to when the white supremacist movement started and to where the feminist movement started, I would, and you could talk to the people who are adopting that label, then all of my criticisms would be valid, wouldn't they?
I mean, because at the very beginning, the feminists were they really were, the very first wave of feminists, they really were trying to fight for equality. The white supremacists,
I get that.
From the very beginning.
I get that. I just want to ask, so if we went back in time to when the feminist movement started, and you're someone who's in favor of gender equality, and then would you advocate calling yourself a feminist? Because then there's no history of feminism fighting for equality at that time. And we're just deciding, what to call ourselves in order to show that we're for equality. Would you pick the label feminist?
Oh, would I pick it? No.
Well, but why wouldn't you pick it?
Because I don't like labels in general.
Well, okay, but let's say you're going to pick a label because you need to call your social movement something. You wouldn't pick feminism. Why not?
Really, I just don't like labels. I really don't like labels at all, and I would prefer to avoid labeling myself as anything.
Right, okay, but so let's say someone else is calling themselves a feminist. In that case, this is way back just as the feminist movement's about to start, and you hear someone deciding, well, what should we call ourselves? And one person suggests, well, I'm going to label myself a feminist. Are you going to say, sure, that's a good label to call your movement about equality?
For me, I don't care that much about words. To be honest, I don't really care that much about words and labels.
Okay, but you did when we were talking about the white supremacist movement and the feminist movement, and I understand that you said that's because of the history. But let's go back to before there was a history.
That's
But let's
because of history and the
but
action.
let's go back before the history happened. Then, like, let's imagine we were back at the start of the white supremacist movement, when I would imagine that you would, if they were going to say at the start of the white supremacist movement, if someone, like, no one's ever heard of it, and someone says, I am a white supremacist because I'm in favor of racial equality, would you have anything wrong with that? Would you have any problem with them saying that?
The white supremacists have never ever at any points of time been for racial equality. Not one.
No, I know they haven't, but I'm saying in a hypothetical to try and make a point.
I'm sorry, I just go by actions. You know, for me, actions really stick out.
Okay, well, I think that words are important. I think that words change people's minds about things, and I think that when we start using words, like if I was saying I'm in favor of racial equality because I'm white supremacist, I mean, I think that would imply that I have some very un-egalitarian ideas in my head, even though I may not say them specifically. So I think that words are very important. They change people's minds. They say things about what people really think and what people's assumptions are. I think that they are worth talking about.
Do you mind if I make a counter argument of why I think words are not all that important?
Go for it.
Okay. How would you feel? What would you say if a person called themselves a fag hater? What would your response be to that?
A fag hater.
Yes. What is your response to that?
I would say that that is a really shitty thing to call yourself. Do you mean you hate fags?
And what if they said yes?
Well, then their actions and their words are shitty.
Oh, but here's the thing. Way back in the day, fag originally meant cigarettes. You have a problem with a person hating cigarettes?
I mean, yes, I actually do, but let's pretend that let's pretend that I have no problem with someone hating cigarettes. So no, I don't think that I would have a problem with it. But if they said, well, when I say fag, I mean cigarette, then I'd say, oh, okay, well, no, yeah, fair enough, you're a fag hater. And the same way, if someone says, I am a feminist, and I say, well, why do you call yourself a feminist? And they say, well, in the lexicon that I'm using, the prefix fem is not to do with women, it means equality. It doesn't mean female, it means equality. I would say, well, okay, that's a very confusing language you have there. No one else in the world speaks it, but I don't actually have any problem with you.
Yeah, because you see, like you were really upset about fag hater when you thought I was referring to gay people, but originally fag meant cigarettes. It had nothing to do with gays at all whatsoever.
Yeah, I understand that. I just think that, and I think I'm being consistent. If because the prefix fem is to do with females, and the feminist movement, no one denies that prefix of femin is from feminine. No one denies that is to do with women. If they were saying that the prefix actually doesn't mean what you think it means, then I would say, okay, I have no problem with your label then, other than the fact that you're speaking some weird language no one speaks. So, yeah, I would have no problem with someone calling themselves a fag hater if they said that they don't like cigarettes. But let's think about what sort of person that would be in today's society. They would know that everyone else is going to hear them say that and think that they hate gay people. They'd know that. And so what I would say is that does say something about how they think. I would say in that case, it means they're probably a troll. They're trying to troll people, which is fine. So I think that even in that scenario, you are getting something about how that person thinks and what that person's real positions are based on what words they're using.
Yeah, I'm just saying how like meanings, words and meanings change over time. Like, did
Yeah.
you know that awful used to mean like really good or awesome? Awful actually just means awesome. Intercourse, used to mean a social conversation. So way back in like the 1700s, awful intercourse would be a very good thing.
Yeah, I agree that words change, but at the moment, the prefix to a word, when you add fem to the start of a word, it means you're talking about women, and when you add ist to the end, it means it's some kind of an ideology or worldview. And so when you have fem and ist, the meaning is very clear to everyone. It's some kind of an ideology or worldview that has something to do with females. And if you're talking about it being for gender equality, then that is very concerning, because, I mean, if I could make up a word out of that, or at least say one I've never heard before, feminophilia. And everyone knows what that means, I imagine. Feminophilia, ophilia means love of, and fem, sort of as a prefix, is women. So it's love of women, so feminophilia. Everyone knew what that word meant just based on the different aspects of it. So when you say feminism, everyone knows what that means. It's some kind of a worldview or ideology or opinion that is focused on women. And if then you go ahead and say that this is about gender equality, then I don't have any idea how you could be saying that you don't think that gender equality is something that is focused primarily at women.
I think it's because way back in the day, you know, women wanted more rights. I do think that they should have dropped a word at second wave feminism, definitely at third wave feminism. But I think that at first wave feminism, they perceive like men, like more men voted, and I don't think women could vote back then. I think
Yeah.
they were just trying to have they tried to get more of the same rights that men had back then.
Yes. I understand that, and that is why I would have been fine with them calling themselves the women's rights movement, which initially they did. Initially, they were the women's rights movement. The word feminism came later.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, okay, let me ask you this: if feminists wasn't so crazy, like if they didn't do all these mean, horrible things, like
Mhm.
let's just say that none of the bad things that they did ever happened, then
Yeah.
couldn't feminism and women's rights movements, couldn't they be interchangeable?
No, because, well, why would you use the word feminism?
Why use women's rights?
Because you're in favor of women's rights.
You know, feminism could just be, you know, a movement. I mean, doesn't even the dictionary say, at least Merriam-Webster.
Who cares what the dictionary says? When I say a word, people know what it means without looking the word up in the dictionary. If, like I said before, just feminophilia. That's a word that, as far as I know, I made up. But everyone knows what it means, because it's because when you say a term, the words still have meanings, whether or not you've heard that specific word before. And so when you say feminism, like that means some kind of ideology based around being female or females, focused on females. If it doesn't mean that, then you're being intentionally misleading for some reason. And if you're being intentionally misleading, why are you being intentionally misleading? That's very fucking suspicious.
I was just thinking, because I was just thinking that if they're focused on helping women, then I don't know. The women's rights movement is focused on helping women too. So, and
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that the reason why people have such a huge problem with feminism or feminists is because of their horrible, terrible actions. If they didn't do all the horrible things that they done, I don't think anybody would have a problem with the word itself. If they didn't do all those horrible things.
No, I would still have a problem with it. If the white supremacist movement had only ever fought for racial equality, I would still not call myself a white supremacist. I'd say, well, I like what the movement's done, but I think that the term is awful. Like, it is very misleading at best. So in the same way, I will not call myself a feminist, even if I only see feminists doing good things. I would say, well, I agree with what you're doing, but can we have a different label, please?
Well, if the white supremacist movement actually helped Black people, and they actually did try to work for equality, like seriously, they, like, let's just say that there were people called supremacist movements, and they really did, they legitimately, like, no shits, helped Black people and, you know, Mexicans, whatever, achieve equality. Let's say we did have that equality. Let's just say they were successful. I wouldn't mind the label as long as they, you know, actually tried to, because actions to me speak louder than words.
I agree that actions are more important, but I don't understand how you get from actions are more important than words to words have no value at all.
Well, the purpose of language is to effectively communicate with the other person and to drive a point, an idea across. As long as it gets that idea across, it doesn't really matter what words you use, because then you reach into language policing.
I don't think that it is language policing. I think it's disagreeing with a term. I think that when you say feminist, you are bundling some kind of a sexist implication into your movement that is ostensibly for equality.
I don't know, because like you said, like if a person called themselves a white supremacist and they lived up to that title, I mean, like they say they're for equality, and they actually, you know, try to achieve equality, and they were being successful with it, and they were achieving success. I would have no problem with their label, because I'm just going to focus on their actions.
Okay, so there are two things. The first is I would still have a problem with their label. But the other thing is, well, the reason that I'd have a problem with their label is because I don't think that it would be possible to have a movement called the white supremacist movement that only focused on equality. I think the very nature of the label, if they're all calling themselves that, what they are communicating to people is that there is some aspect of the battle for equality that is focused on white people's supremacy. Like, it's marrying those two ideas, and I think that some people, at the very least, are going to get that message. I don't think that you can call yourself a rape supporter when you are against rape. I don't think that you can call yourself. I think that labels are going to have some effect. I don't think that words are just. It's not as simple as, well, we just agree on a definition, and when I say this word, this is what you're going to have in your head. Well, not necessarily. You know, I can say, okay, if I say pink elephant, you just think of a pink elephant, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if I say, well, whenever I say pink elephant, what I mean is green hippo, and then I say pink elephant? You might think, okay, well, he means green hippo, but you're still going to have pink elephant in your head.
Yeah.
And when I say feminist, and I mean egalitarian, maybe you're going to be thinking, well, I know that they mean egalitarian, but you're still going to have feminist somewhere in your head.
Yeah, to me, my problem with feminists is their actions, when they're saying, you know, mansplaining, men spreading. I mean, because, for example, I have no problem with Christina Hoff Sommers. I have no problem with Camille what's her last name? Paglia?
Paglia, yeah.
Plaglia. I have no problem with JJ Talks, though I don't agree with some of her videos. Like, gender is all in our head, and there's no such thing as biological gender. It's a myth. I don't agree with her ideas, but I have no problem with her as a person. Um, I don't, because it's just, I care much more about how a person behaves.
Yeah. I can't. I've said this a lot of times, but I agree that actions are more important. But I don't think you've made an argument to say that therefore language isn't important.
Well, the purpose of language is to communicate your idea to communicate your idea to the other person. As long as they know what you mean, and as long as you can effectively get your message across, and as long as there is no miscommunication, like as long as you know what I mean, and you're not
I think that there is a miscommunication when you call yourself a feminist. I think that there is a miscommunication. It's not overt and it's not as clear, but I think that there is. I think that that's why feminism has managed to grow into this divisive ideology. That would not have happened had they called themselves egalitarians. If they had called themselves egalitarians from the start, and that had been the egalitarian movement, then we wouldn't be complaining about radical egalitarians, because the most radical egalitarian idea that you can think of is, well, let's just treat everyone completely equally. Like, no one's going to complain about that.
I actually like to debate that part. Even with egalitarian, you could try to find loopholes around it. Like, you could say that some people need to be treated more equally than others, because whenever there's language, you could always abuse it and misuse it.
Oh,
Makes me think it makes me think of animal form, where it's kind of like all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. You could manipulate any word at all. You could take the word egalitarian and be like, well, some people need more equality than others,
Yeah. No, well, I agree with that. But then let's think about where the bastardization of language happened. With the feminist movement, it happened the moment that you named your movement that's ostensibly about equality after half of the population. That's when the language bullshitting started, when the language started becoming confusing and started becoming a bit suspicious. When you have an egalitarian society, an egalitarian movement, and you say, some people are more equal than others, well, then that is where the language bullshit happens. It didn't happen when you started calling yourselves egalitarians. That was fine. The language bullshit happened later. But with feminism, the language bullshit happened right at the start, when you call yourself that label.
Well, the reason they call themselves feminists is because of the time period that they live in, because during that time, there was a legitimate patriarchy, where the man was the head.
Was there?
The feminism was way back then, like I think it was in the 1800s, I think. I'm not sure. I think the 1800s was when they came out. But then
anyway,
when they live in a legitimate patriarchy system in the 1800s, where the man is the head of the household.
I'm not sure that it was quite as patriarchal as is often implied by feminists, but even if I accept that it was, then I would still say, yeah, in that case, I would say I have sympathy for why you would feel that you want to call the label feminism. Like, well, you're feeling downtrodden and you want to fight back, but that is not the solution. It's the way you solve inequality is not by pushing back in the other direction as hard as you possibly can. It's aiming for equality and just pushing as hard in that direction as you possibly can.
Yeah, I think that the first wave of feminism did actually want equality, but
they call themselves feminists, and I would have still said back in the day that that's a problem.
Because back in the day, how women lived their lives, they viewed it to be as a problem,
Sure. Well, I still would not have said that I'm okay with calling it feminism. Just the same as if we were in the reverse situation, and you know, I mean, again, I'm not convinced that the society was quite so patriarchal back around that time, but that's a totally different discussion. If the situation was reversed, I would not call myself a masculist. I
But
mean, the word would be a shitty word to use, no matter how understandable it would be.
But it's kind of like if you call yourself a masculinist in a time where you live in a female supremacist society with a sort of kind of like how society is now, I couldn't blame you, and I wouldn't necessarily hold it against you because
Like I said, it would be more understandable.
I would look at how you act as a person. I would see if you treat me well. And then, like, if you seem like a really nice guy, then I could just, ignore your label masculinist. And if you have something that I could get behind, I would help you out with which you think is support sense.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and that's what I'm doing. I'm saying like I can get past their label and I can support them, which I have been. Like on at least on Twitter, as to the extent that I have been. I've been talking to feminists, and I'm happy to retweet their hashtag about this because it's an important cause, and they're fighting on the right side of it. And I think that they're all really great people, and they are doing the right thing. However, that doesn't mean that I therefore think that their label's right. I still think that their label, I still think that there are issues with calling yourself a feminist. I can get past it, and I can see that their actions are more important and focus on their actions. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to say that there's no problem with their label. There is.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going on a circus, but I think we mostly see where each other is coming from. I mean, I think you conveyed your ideas to me, and I conveyed what I was trying to say to you. So I think we both understood each other's points.
Okay. Yeah. So, what was the next article?
Yeah, we should get off this one. Do you have time to read this one?
Yeah, let's one more article. Then how long have we been going? Do you know?
We've been going for about 1 hour.
Okay, yeah, maybe one more article, and then cut it off, make it so it's a watchable length. Unlike my last stream, which was 5.5 hours.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure people had a lot of fun.
They did, but yeah, last stream went crazy because we had Copper Cab on there, we had Kraut and Tea, we had Sugar Tits. I'll miss people out if I try to name all the cool people we had on there, but yeah, it went really well.
Yeah, listen and hates for a high schooler who criticized Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
A Philadelphia high school journalist who took on Black Lives Matter in a column for the school paper, only to be driven into homeschooling, says his tournaments didn't end well when he withdrew. It was just before Christmas break when 17-year-old University of Pennsylvania-bound Michael Morose wrote an opinion piece for the Central High School paper, Decentralizer. In it, he criticized the racially charged University of Missouri protests at the time and suggests that Michael Brown, the Black teenager killed in 2014 by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, was a delinquent who was at worst justifiably killed and at best a dog. I think Vernacular's made a similar argument in one of his videos.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have made that argument. I like his little quote there, actually. He seems like he might be a good writer. It's a good turn of phrase. If someone who called for me to be shot gets a day suspension, then I imagine these students got a stern high five. That is a good little turn of phrase. I'm going to try reading.
When the column hits the paper's Facebook page, Dress poured in. Morose said he was forced to stay at home initially, and when he returned, threats and harassment prompted him to withdraw and finish his senior year on home study. When everything started to happen, I was surprised, Morose told FoxNews.com. Whenever we posted an op-ed, we we never got a reaction like I did with this one. In retrospect, I was naive to think that this would have been the same. Now it's more disappointing than anything. Morse said the harassment has continued on social media since he has entered independent study and claims even his former teachers and staff at Central have taken part. In a screen grab provided to FoxNews.com, a student appears to have tweeted to one of the teachers at Central of veiled threats against Morose. Would would you still penalize me if I decided to punch him in addition to using my words? The tweets read. Oh, yeah, here it is. And the teacher says, laugh out loud, yes. And the girl, Kayla, just was like, wow. Any flippant dismissal, sorts of flippant of what's most perceived as a threat.
Okay, so I would imagine that most people in sort of on our side, I guess, the cultural libertarians, anti-SJWs, whatever you want to call us, would be saying, well, this guy is, that lol means that he's not taking a threat of violence seriously. I would imagine that's what most people would be saying. I want to preemptively strike and disagree with that, though. I think that the teacher may have just thought that this guy was making a joke, and he may well have just been making a joke. And while I am surprised and think it's kind of hypocritical that this guy making a joke, this student making a joke like that is acceptable, because I don't think that it would be the other way around if this Morose guy had made the same joke. I think that the solution there is to... I don't think we should dogpile on the teacher for saying lol to what I perceive as a joke.
Yeah, it's not a guy. It's some girl named Kayla or
No, the teacher.
Oh, the teacher. Oh.
Yeah, I don't think that we should have a problem with the teacher saying lol. I don't think that's... I think that he didn't really think it was a threat, and that's fair enough. I don't really think it was a threat either.
Yeah, she seems to be joking.
Mm.
And I could see how it would be taken as a joke. I don't, because people's personalities aren't taken into account when they write things like this. Ross also provided another screenshot of a tweet in which the head of the social studies department accused Morose of baiting other students into a fight rather than making a sound argument. I do think he was trying to make a sound argument. I mean, many anti-feminists, like you already said, talked about the Ferguson incident, and it didn't bother me a bit. I just like, I now see it in a different light. The original column ran alongside another piece supportive of the University of Missouri's demonstrations, which were triggered by claims the school was slow to react to incidents that alienated African American students there. The demonstrations drew national headlines and resulted in the resignation of the school president.
Yeah, I haven't read this guy's stuff, Morose. I liked his little comment. I don't know, and I am against Black Lives Matter. I just I don't think that this has sufficient information about what's happened there. I mean, was he actually threatened, like, in a way that wasn't a joke?
Um, why did you say it's Black Lives Matter? I don't recall reading a Black Lives Matter.
Oh, sorry. I mean, wait, what? Scroll up.
You want to scroll up more? Oh,
Yeah.
never mind. There, yes, you're right. It is. They did say Black Lives Matter. My bad.
Yeah, he took on Black Lives Matter. That's why he got attacked, allegedly. But so the dude wrote an article about Black Lives Matter and got attacked for it, apparently, by some people who didn't like that, and he had to move to homeschooling and still didn't stop getting attacked. But it doesn't seem like there's any evidence of real harassment or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just checking because there are other movements outside of the Black Lives Matter movements. There is the new Black Panthers Party, and then
Oh God.
there's the Uhuru movement. So there's more than one movement about I'm not sure what Black Lives Matter is about, but the Uhuru movements do the Uhuru movements is about Black supremacy, Black power, and I do think it's about Black nationalism, I think. And
Yeah, well, you said you don't know what the Black Lives Matter movement is about. As far as I can tell, it's about victim culture. It's about trying to claim that because it basically taking any excuse to show that Black people are oppressed, so that they can claim victimhood, and so that they can justify that they can virtue signal. Essentially, they can say, like, we essentially live in a culture where being a victim gives you more power than just about anything else. So they want to show that they are the biggest victims of all. And so they'll take any excuse to do that, even though most of them, if not all of the ones that the Black Lives Matter movement has gotten behind, have been complete bullshit.
yeah, yeah, I'm just pointing out that there are different groups because I mean, you know that I follow Gazi Koso. I follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
I found him entertaining, and he he made a live. He did a live video chat where he's like, "I am sick and tired of people calling me Black Lives Matter. I am not Black Lives Matter. I am with the Uhuru movements. Listen, y'all, Black Lives Matter, Uhuru, the new Black Panthers Party. We're all different, okay? We're not all Black Lives Matter. And people keep calling us Black Lives Matter. Everybody's saying I'm Black Lives Matter, and every time Black person does anything, everybody wants to call it Black Lives Matter. No, no, no. I'm a hoodoo. These people are the new Black Panthers Party. We are not all Black Lives Matter. And quite frankly, Gazi Koso, he seems to hate the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like so I'm an MRA, and it really annoys the crap out of me how essentially whenever a PUA or a MGTOW does anything bad, it instantly gets blamed on MRAs. Like the biggest example is Roosh V. Like, he's this PUA, and he talks. He did this article allegedly about how he wants to legalize rape. I mean, it wasn't even true, but ignoring that for a second, he did that article, and it instantly got talked about on every social media platform and even most giant news sites, and just that he was this MRA. The same thing happened with Gregory. No, not Greg Allen. What's his name? Elliot Rogers. Elliot Rogers killed a whole bunch of people. He seems to have been some kind of a PUA, and he instantly gets labeled as an MRA after he does that school shooting by all of these media sources. Like, I think it's probably the same thing. There's probably one. I don't know the difference between the movements to a very high extent, but I'm sure that they are quite different. I'm pretty sure I disagree with all of them from what I've seen of them so far. But there's I do understand Ghazi's pain there, where you're part of one movement that people just can't differentiate from other movements, and anything bad that one group does gets labeled on your one.
Yeah, I could see where Sargon comes from when he says he doesn't want to call himself an MRA. But
I can't see where it's coming from at all. I think Sargon should call himself an MRA and stop lying.
After everything you said about Elliot Rogers and Rashby, you still don't understand why Sargon would not take on the label MRA.
I understand why, but he should still stop lying and call himself an MRA. I mean, he advocates for the rights of men. That is great, but we're not going to win the war in terms of the culture war here unless we are clear about our message. And as soon as you say, I'm not an advocate for men's rights. I'm not a men's rights advocate. Well, then you've lost, because if calling yourself a men's rights advocate is some terrible thing, then anytime you advocate for men's rights, someone is just going to call you a men's rights advocate, and that'll be some kind of point scored against you, because you can't refute that. You are advocating for men's rights. So the only way to win the culture battle is to be honest about what you actually believe. If you believe that men should have rights, call yourself a men's rights advocate.
How many labels are a person supposed to have, though?
It's not a label, it's a verb. Do you or do you not advocate for the rights of men?
I'm just saying, because Sargon says he would be happy to call himself a humanist or an egalitarian.
Well, he can call. I'm not asking for him to just hold that label high, call him, actively adopt it. But when he's been asked before, are you an MRA? And he says no, and that is a lie. He is lying.
Yeah, I'm just saying, because it's not like, I'm pretty sure that nobody wants to have 1,000 labels on their Twitter or,
No. I'm not saying he has to have, don't say I'm trying to say that he has to call himself an MRA actively. He doesn't have to put it on his Twitter. He doesn't have to talk about why he calls himself an MRA. All I want for him to do is stop lying. When someone asks, are you a men's rights advocate? And he says no, that is a lie. He has advocated for the rights of men before. So all I want for him to do is stop lying.
I just think it's the connotation it carries. I think that's the problem he has with it. I think I was watching him on the live stream. I watched him. He and Dr. Random McCann. Yeah. Those two really got into it on the live stream, and I think it was Nicholas Gareth or whatever that hosted live stream, and they really got into it. Sargon is like, I am not an MRA. Did you know that the feminist movements are the ones that came up with the word MRA as an insult to anybody who disagrees with them? I mean,
yeah, I sort of don't care about the identity politics of it at this point. The label can have whatever connotations it wants. Whatever connotations it has, that is a shame that it has those connotations. What we have to do is dispel those connotations. The way to successfully win the culture battle here is not to give up calling yourself an advocate for men's rights. That you are not going to make any headway there. And at the very least, when someone asks you, are you a men's rights advocate, after you just finish advocating for men's rights, please just don't lie.
I don't think Sargon considers himself lying,
Well, I know he doesn't consider himself lying, but he is.
But I mean, it's kind of I think it's being, I don't know, overly harsh to saying that a person is lying when they are speaking their truth. I mean, if a person feels that they're honestly representing themselves the best that they could, then...
Well, in that case, he should do better at honestly representing himself.
because he is speaking his truth, you know.
There is not his truth. There's not my truth and your truth. There's the truth, and we get closer and further away from it. And we get closer to it when we speak honestly about our opinions and try to discuss them and come to the best conclusion. That's how we get closer to the truth. There's not my truth. I don't have a truth. You don't have a truth. There's just the truth, and we try to get closer to it.
Do you think?
And when you lie about about whether or not you advocate for men's rights, you get further away from the truth.
So you think that Sargon is deliberately lying? He considers himself
No.
lying?
I don't think that he's. I don't think he's deliberately lying in that sense. He's not like he doesn't I think he just doesn't really totally. I think he's got some kind of a mental block, like a lot of people do, because they've seen this label MRA dragged through the mud by everyone and their grandmother. But the label still. What does men's rights advocate mean? What does it mean? Like, I'm actually asking.
A person who advocates for men's rights.
Okay, does Sargon of Akkad advocate for men's rights?
Yes.
So is he an MRA?
By that definition, then yes.
You defined it. You gave me the definition because you and everyone else knows what that word means. We know what it means. It means advocate for men's rights. It doesn't matter how much mud the media or social media or anyone, how much mud they drag that label through. It still means what it means. And you defined it yourself. Like I asked you what it means, and you said an advocate for men's rights. Sargon is an MRA by any reasonable definition, but he still just avoids taking the label, and that is going to hurt our chances of getting shit like what these egalitarian feminists are trying to get through. That they're going to have a hard time getting that through.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but it's kind of like I remember Jacqueline Glenn having a debate with Ryan Wiley, and they were talking about labels like, don't you want more people to come out as atheists? And Jacqueline Glenn says yes. Then then Ryan Wiley says, what's the difference between you and me? Jacqueline Glenn says, well, if a person comes out as atheist, agnostic, or even humanist, or a Darwinist, please come out as something. Please just don't say you're a Christian. Please do not say you're a Christian. Say you're a humanist then. Say you're an agnostic then. If you don't want atheist, it bothers me. You know, Jacqueline Glenn says multiple times that it bothers her when people don't call her an atheist, but she would still accept humanist, agnostic, or Darwinist. And even Richard Dawkins says, please, at least come out as agnostic. Please do not hold on to Christian. Please, if you're not a Christian, please just say you're a humanist. Please come out as that, because it helps our side still.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's basically correct. I think that it does help a cause by speaking honestly about it. Even if it didn't, though, now that I think about it, even if it didn't, can't we just be honest for honesty's sake? Can't we just say what we mean and use words that, I mean, we know what these words mean. We know what atheist means. Not theist. Theist is some philosophy about God. I have no philosophy about God because I don't think that he exists. If you're an atheist, then we know what that means. If you don't believe in God and then you say, but I'm not an atheist, then you are lying, or at least you are perverting the truth.
I think that people want to be spared of negative connotations, and I can't fault people for that when a word has been polluted. You know, if a word has been polluted and dragged through the ground, then you may want to opt for another word that has a more positive connotation. Or
you may, and I have no problem with not liking a label, so not sticking to it. I mean, I would say that you should come out as an MRA. I think that it's a good label to have, and I think that atheist as well. But that doesn't. That's not my big problem. If you just don't really like the term MRA, then that's fine. I mean, I would try to advocate for you taking that, but I'm not going to say that there's, that's totally understandable. You're not doing anything logically inconsistent. You're just saying, I don't like this label. That's fine. But when you say I am not an MRA or I'm not an atheist, when you don't believe in God or do advocate for men's rights, then that's different. You're now saying something that isn't true. Maybe it's harsh to call it lying because you don't entirely know that it's not true, or at least you haven't confronted the fact that it's not true, so you're not intentionally lying, but you are saying something that is not true.
Yeah, I just think that people don't want to take on something that has a negative connotation. But to me, there is an argument to be had to improving the word, to just do a bunch of good things under a label. Like if you're an atheist, to do a bunch of good things and donate to charity as an atheist to improve the label. So that's another argument to be had. But
No. Okay. If the entirety of the men's rights movement had done nothing but all of the things that feminists pretend that the men's rights movement does, like, try to legalize rape or whatever. Let's say that the men's rights movement, people calling themselves men's rights advocates, had done nothing but that. I would still call myself a men's rights advocate. I would just say that everyone has been doing it wrong. Because words still have meanings. If we start just talking about labels and whether that label has good connotations or bad connotations, and whether people have how people feel about certain labels, then we just get into identity politics and we start going into little tribes and groups. I would much prefer that words just have meanings, that words mean things so that we can effectively communicate. The thing that language was meant to be for.
yeah, but I could understand why people do not want to have something that has a negative connotation to it. I mean, okay, let me ask you this. Um, do you consider yourself a realistic person about the nature of the human race?
Yes.
Are you a race realist?
Depends which definition of race you're using. Are you saying human race, or do you mean like as in the colloquial definition, meaning like black people, white people, etc.?
You could. What do you think when you think race realist?
Well, I think that it's two words: realist, which is I am a race realist if you mean human race. I am not a race realist if by race you mean black people, white people. No, I suppose no. I am a race realist in all of those sense. Yeah, I'm a race realist.
Yeah. So, so you would take on the name race realist, even though there is a philosophy with that. With a lot of people think white people have higher IQs than blacks, and black people are stupid criminals, and black people suck, and we need segregation and whatnot.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't even think those things are wrong. Like, they're so that the claims don't even make sense. You can't analyze whether they're right or wrong because they're not even sensible claims. Like, white people have higher IQs than blacks. What do you mean? Do you mean every white person has a higher IQ than every black? Then demonstrably you're wrong. Do you think that there is a statistical average IQ among white people that is higher than the statistical average among black people? Then you're statistically right from what I've seen, but it's kind of trivial. That doesn't say anything about any individual black person. Like, you can't see a black person and know that they're smart or stupid. Same as you can't see a white person and know that they're smart or stupid. You have to talk to them, or see them do shit. Like, the claims are ambiguous and ridiculous. So I'm not a defender of those ideas. However, when someone says, I'm a race realist, I'll say, I'm a race realist too, and I don't think that you are, because you think that you can, tell all this stuff about someone just from their race.
Yeah,
So
but
the people who call
everybody,
themselves race realists are not race realists.
yeah, but everybody, everybody knows what it is. Like many people in the atheist community, many Christians, everybody really knows what people mean when they say that they are a race realist. They mean that they're basically white supremacists, basically, or they're basically
Well,
white nationalists.
yeah, and I think that that's probably an. If I talk to a white realist, I'm not going to say, well, I'm not a race realist. If I talk to a race realist, I'm not going to say, well, I'm not a race realist, because that means I'm saying that I'm not realistic about race. And I am. I'm going to say, I am a race realist. You are not, to the person who calls themselves a race realist, because they're not. They think that you can tell tons of stuff about someone from their race, which you can't. You might be able to have some statistical correlations, but that doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody pretty much knows what a race realist is, like, because, they're pretty much all, I mean, atheists know, Christians know, I mean, even among white nationalists, even they're kind of a lot like, yeah, they're basically white nationalists, basically. They're just atheists along with it instead of Christian.
Sure. Oh, I've got no problem calling myself a race realist. I think that
You're going to
in
be
this,
very alone there, that group, Dan. You're going
well, then, well, maybe I will. Yeah, okay, but I think that I'm going to change minds of race realists more effectively than someone who says, no, I'm not a race realist, because then the person you're talking to goes, ha, well, they're not even realistic about this, and they don't. What's the point of listening to you about it? Because you're not realistic about the concept of race. I am going to say, I am a race realist. I don't think you are. That is a more intriguing thing to say to that person, because it's talking about actual graspable logical concepts as opposed to this identity politics. If you're reducing it to identity politics, then you're just essentially having an emotional debate, which can't be won. There's no objective criteria by which to say, well, my feelings about these labels are better than your feelings about these labels. So fuck the feelings about the labels. Let's talk about the actual concepts and let's talk it through logically, rationally. There, you can make progress. You can convince someone that their position is wrong, or that they can convince you that your position is wrong. You can have an actual discussion if you drop identity politics and you just talk about the concepts.
Yeah, but I mean, this goes back into words and meanings. The purpose of words and language is to get a meaning across. There is
Yeah.
pretty much a universally accepted meaning of what a race realist is. You are the one who's going against what everybody else is accepting to be true. So you are going to be miscommunicating here, because everybody else understands what a race realist is. So
I don't think they do. I think
miscommunicating would be you.
I don't think so. I think that people are miscommunicating with one another, and I think that advocating for using the phrase race realist in its literal sense is going to reduce miscommunication. I think that when you have a term like race realist and people are using it to mean white supremacist, then that is confusing as all hell. You're going to make it much harder to communicate, and you're going to, because we're talking about race realist as this identity, as opposed to talking about race realist in terms of the actual concepts, the logical concepts themselves, then it's going to be impossible to have that discussion. I think that you're going to be miscommunicating a hell of a lot more if you use the more commonly accepted definitions than if you use the more reasonable definition and explain it when you do.
No, I think you're just being a literalist at this point. At this point, I just think you're taking things way too literally, because that's like saying that Black Panthers are miscommunicating because they're not literally Black Panthers. In that case, the
No,
Black Panther Party is lying because the Black Panthers aren't literally Black Panthers. We all know what black is. Black is kind of like the what I'm wearing right now, and Panthers is the wild animal. Simply Black Panthers, you call yourself a Black Panther, you're lying because you're not literally a Black Panther, even though we all pretty much have an idea what a Black Panther is. You're saying that a race realist is lying because they're not being, because they are making race into an identity politics when everybody accepts the meaning of race realist. The atheist talks about it, the Christians talks about it, we all know about it, we all accept the definition. The only person who isn't accepting what everybody else has already accepted is you. You are the only one who hasn't accepted the meaning that everybody else has accepted.
And I think that everyone should accept my meaning. Do you think that do you think that some ways of speaking can be better than others, irrespective of which one is more popular?
To me, I just think that when it comes to language, it literally is majority rules.
Okay, I'm going to explain why that is not how we can communicate. If it's majority rules entirely, then, I mean, the majority may have a very confusing system of communication. And okay, how does language change in that case? If we've got some ways of speaking that are just decided by the majority of people, and then if the majority agrees on a way of saying something, how can a new way come along? Because as soon as it's new, it's not the majority way of speaking. It's not the way that most people, it has to develop, it has to become more popular, and it becomes more popular because there's some appeal in speaking that way as opposed to the way that the majority previously was speaking. In the case of race realist, I would say that there is something superior about saying race realist and meaning that you are a realist about race. In terms of Black Panthers, I don't think that there's any room for miscommunication, because with race realist, we've got you want to be able to say, I am a realist with respect to race. What do you call yourself? If you don't say race realist, I think you're being a bit obtuse. I don't think that you're ever going to confuse someone into thinking that there's no double meaning behind what you're saying. If you say I'm a Black Panther, you know, there's no implication that you literally are a Black Panther. There is an implication. The race realists do are actively pushing that implication that they are realists about race. The Black Panthers are not pushing an implication that they are Black Panthers.
To me, you're just being a literalist because everybody knows what a race realist is. Nobody is really confused about it.
I don't think that's true. I think that the confusion is subtle, but it is there.
I don't think anybody's confused about it, and you're just making language more difficult in the end, because, you know, the purpose of language is to effectively communicate your meaning. And if everybody understands that a race realist is pretty much an atheist white nationalist, if everybody understands that, you're just going to make everything more confusing by saying, well, I'm a race realist, but everybody else is wrong. Like, everybody's wrong except me. I am the only one right. Everybody else is wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that's appeal to populism. I don't think that just because an idea is popular means it's right. You know, I don't think I'm the only person in the world who would say that they're a race realist and mean that they're a realist about race. And I do think that I am being literal about these things, but I'm being literal because I'm trying to show that the literal definition of these words is to some extent implied with the label. The people calling themselves race realists, the reason that they adopt that label is so that they can say, well, I am just a realist about race. I'm not engaging in all of the bullshit that you guys are. And I think that that is symptomatic of a way of thinking about race that is very, very common. So the reason that I think that lots of people are afraid of talking about race, essentially, is because I think that there's a really common underlying belief that the racists are right. And I think that that is a real problem. I think that a lot of people, have somewhere deep down, they think, well, I'm avoiding admitting it because I want to be all equality and egalitarian. But somewhere deep down, they think that the racists are actually right. That and I think that that's what's afraid of talking about race. And when someone says race realist, I think that they're playing upon that deep-seated belief that a lot of people have. I want to bring it out into the open because I know that when you actually do talk unemotionally and literally and blankly about race, the racists turn out to be fucking morons. It's stupid. It makes no sense at all. And I think that if we can focus on it in a literal and logical sense, as opposed to with this identity politics way, then I think we're going to do a lot to solve both the old-fashioned white supremacist racists and the modern Uhuru, Black Lives Matter, whatever, just black supremacist racists. I think that both of those will be solved, as well as the liberals who are just like sort of pushing white guilt upon everyone and making everyone terrified to talk about race even more. I think all of those problems, the solution to them is to talk literally and clearly about race, as opposed to letting the people who have this deep-seated belief that the racists are right, letting them define the words.
Yeah, but you don't need to speak literally to convey an idea. People could convey an idea without being literal, because we do have figurative speech, we in idioms. Nobody takes idioms literally, and people don't take figure of speech literally. When people say it's raining cats and dogs out there, nobody goes to see it like, what? Is it really raining cats and dogs? I better go.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I understand. And okay, if someone says, like, to me, oh my God, all of these MRAs harassing people, you're not an MRA, are you? I would say, well, I consider myself an MRA because I advocate for men's rights. I mean, I do understand that there are figures of speech and that they are trying to use this definition that is more about an identity. And I'm not ignoring that. I'm going to understand that. I'm going to communicate properly and clearly using that. But I'm also going to advocate that we use that we pick good labels for the things we're talking about. I agree that that the people who say race realist, they often do mean that they are a white supremacist. But I think that there's a reason they pick that label, because they know that it's going to help them for people to associate the concept of race realism, associate that concept with the concept of white supremacy. If people have that association, then there's some connection between being realistic about race and being a white supremacist. That is a false connection. I don't think we should support it.
No, everybody knows that. Okay, look, everybody associates race realist with white supremacists. However, nobody thinks that there are few people, maybe people within their group, very few people think that they are being realistic about race. In fact, many people have taken the time out to debunk them. The Peach, a girl calling herself Peach. She debunked everything that a race realist said about race. It's kind of like they would even say that people who call themselves race realists are the people who are the most delusional and unrealistic people. But they accept that that's the label that they call themselves. But
that's a bad way of convincing
they
people.
still take the time out to debunk them and debunk all their claims and let everybody know how they are repeating things from books that has been debunked already. It's like, oh man, you are speaking from this book. I know that this book you're using. I know these people you're talking about, and this book has been debunked. And the people that you look up to, they are associated with racial groups.
Yes, I know, I see what you're saying, and I do think that people can advocate for the right position whilst using crappy words to do it. That's my claim is not anything to the contrary. My claim is that when we speak in a clearer way about our concepts, when we change our language so that it's unambiguous, and even if it's like, I'm not saying that people misunderstand when you say race realist. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that people have sort of a kind of misunderstanding that goes under the radar. It's when someone hears, race realist and associates it with white supremacist, then it may not change the mind of the person who's, the people debunking the race realist, but they will change. They will affect whether or not they're going to change the mind of the so-called race realist, because that is setting up the discussion so that the other person is the realist. They are being realistic about it, and you're avoiding facing the truth about race. The truth, which is that the races should all go to their separate countries or whatever. And I think that in my conversations that I've had with people who are sort of white supremacists, white nationalists, they have had that sort of air about them, like, this is something that everyone really knows deep down. This is something that everyone's really accepts, and I'm just calling, I'm calling a spade a spade. I'm the only one who's facing up to the truth. And I think that you giving them that term, like just handing it to them without an argument of race realist, I think that that's contributing to that idea. I think it's misunderstanding how ideas propagate.
Well, when it comes to race realists, Peach did a great job debunking them to show them that they are indeed being unrealistic, because she thoroughly debunked them using articles, but she even debunked them using their own article. Like she was debunking Hey Ruka. And apparently, Haruka didn't even read her own articles. She didn't, check her own websites. So when Peach debunked her, she debunked her using her own articles. She's like, hey, Ruka, your own articles refutes you. You apparently didn't read the articles you are trying to use against me,
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I mean I've already kind of responded to that. I understand that people can use, they don't play the language game as well as they could, but they still do advocate for the right position. I think that's not something that I'm disagreeing with.
Yeah. Should I continue with the article?
Sure, if you want. Is there anything more to it, or have we pretty much got the gist?
Let's see. I'm up here. We're almost through with it, actually.
Oh, I may as well finish it off then.
Both op-eds were eventually taken down, but Morose was the first. His opinion piece was pulled down from Facebook page by students editors once the backlash began, and the counterpoint article supporting the movements was left alone. Neither Decentralizer nor its members necessarily agree with the content message of the piece. Read a note to the post. Read a note to the posted by Decentralizer staff at the time. However, the situation was escalated such that the writer and editors on the staff have received direct threats. Officials for the. Oh, you have an opinion on that?
Well, I don't know. Has he really been threatened? Like actual threats of violence? Has this happened? I'd like to see some evidence of it.
It's his word. I mean, well,
Yeah.
there's a image on here, but I can't even read that. I could barely read it. Can you read this? Like the little word, I can read a bitch, but the words are just really small.
Yeah, I can read it. I feel like it's not even fair to judge him off the. Nah, just call him stupid. Um, nah, no one's really threatened him. He's just they're just disagreeing with him. He's being a triggered SJW.
He says that he's been threatened. He said he can't go back to school.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know him personally, and I wasn't there, and I haven't been around him 24/7, and I don't know him, and he could possibly be telling the truth. I
He
mean,
could be. But
I
why
don't
wouldn't
think
they post the actual threats on here if there were any?
maybe it's because it's a vocalized threats. Like maybe it's like
Oh yeah.
it could be like I'm gonna beat you up, and if he doesn't have a recorder, then it'll be his word versus their word. Like
Well, they can still say what he claimed that they said.
like yeah, it's like if I were to say, speaking for as an example, let's say I were to like say that Danny DeShaw says that he's gonna beat me up, he's gonna kill me, he's gonna do this to me, he's gonna do that to me. You could, say that I'm lying, but it'll still be your word versus my word. So
Yeah,
if we
but
both
it seems suspicious that. But if the article that was about you didn't even say that you claimed that I said I was going to beat you up, then I mean that would be very suspicious.
So do you want to end it here?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think we've been going for about 2.5 hours on it.
No, I think we are a little bit under 2 hours because we started at 6, I think, and it's 7:54. So I think we're a little bit under 2 hours.
Oh well, that's a good length hangout. But yeah, so thanks for having me on again, and I hope that I didn't get too ranty, but I think we had for the first time some serious disagreements, which is cool.
Yeah, this is the very first time that we had a serious debate on our channel. Like this is the very first time that we really just went after each other. Whereas in previous videos, we pretty much agreed with each other on everything, or not everything, but we agreed with each other like a good 90% of the time. But now it's kind of like this is the time where we came here and we just really debated each other. It's like, I guess we had a little bit of a fight.
Yeah. Oh, well, it was awesome coming on as usual, Rin. Hopefully I can come back again soon.
Sure.
As long as I haven't offended you too much.
You racist, sexist, misogynist shits, Lord. How dare you? You're oppressing me. I am now going to run into my safe space.
All right then, Ren. Enjoy your safe space.
All right. Bye.
Bye.